Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dreamers and Doers, Women Living Their Dreams and in the process changing the world. I'm Karoline Stevens from Journey to Empowerment. I'm a certified life mastery consultant, and this was my dream to interview amazing women entrepreneurs and difference makers. And it's so cool because I get to sit and speak with real incredible women, like today's guest. She's a real gem. She's right here in Sedona, Arizona. She's a composer, a musician, a singer, and she is so talented. She is so successful, and her work uplifts and delights so many people all over the world, including me. And so I'm so happy and honored to welcome Christel Veraart with Inspired by Distant Lands. Hi, Crystal. So great that you're here.
Hi, Carolina. Nice to be here, and you make me blush with all those things.
Just breathe it in. And so, just a brief introduction. So, Crystal finds her inspiration in the many cultures she has experienced while living and working in various parts of the world. And she grew up in the Netherlands, but then started roaming the world at an early age. I can relate to that. And Crystal's music has featured internationally in film, dance, and stage productions, was broadcast nationally and internationally. Crystal's compositions range from solo to small ensemble to large orchestra, drawing on a wide variety of musical and cultural influences. Crystal trained in classical piano and voice, but it was only when she left Europe to explore South America that she was able to find her own voice. So, Crystal, I would love to talk about your latest album, Pleiades. And this was the first album I got introduced you to when I got introduced to your music, and I just fell in love with it. I instantly jumped online and bought it, which I rarely do these days. And so it's really so hauntingly beautiful and so moving, and also it's super successful. Like you've been on the in the top 100 of radio airplay, ZMR. You have scored or placed number 4 and number 2 in December and January. So this is a really, really big success. So why don't you introduce our viewers to Pleiades and how did it come about? And yeah.
Okay, so for a long time, I've been thinking um, coming up with an album, a meditative album, but for voice, which is not a very usual thing to do, because most meditative albums are instrumental. I was also, I've moved to so many different places and so many different uh, cultures and countries that there's always a language that I speak that nobody else speaks. So it makes sense that I'm always more and more looking for a universal language. So I wanted to create an album that was showcasing my voice, but that didn't follow any particular structure. No language, so I made up the language, and no meter, so it didn't have a defined meter. Some of the pieces do a little bit more, but most of them don't. They're very open. So the only thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to follow where my voice would take me. So it was a bit. Some people have asked me if I channeled that album, and honestly, I barely know what that means. But I think it was very, very much a trance-like experience for me. And so then what I did is I made sure that I laid down a track. So I created some very minimal instrumental composition that just gave me uh, way to find my bass notes, and then you can't see it today, I think, in this setup, but behind the grant that you can see, it's the button showing in the picture, is my vocal booth. And so I would just put myself in the vocal booth, which, by the way, is a closet, and a blanketed closet. And I would just put myself in that closet, and I stayed in there until my mind would go blank, and I would stop thinking, and I would just try to come up, or just let it happen. And that's how the whole album actually fell into place. And of course, Sedona helped with its magic. It did help that those 7 sisters, which are the Pleiades, were there every morning when I would walk out on our deck, and they were staring at me, and it was like they shone no light on me, and said, "We go for it now." So that's how Pleiades came about.
Yeah, I love that you gave yourself the opportunity, literally locking yourself into your audio booth and just waiting, giving yourself time. Everything settles, the whole internal and external noise disappears, and that's then when you gave your inner being a chance to come through to through your voice or whatever came through. But so rarely we give ourselves the opportunity just to become really still and give ourselves the chance to have this creativity come out.
Yeah. See, every composition I write follows pretty much that pattern. Pleiades was the only difference with Pleiades was it was completely improvised, so I didn't structure it, and the vocal part. But all my compositions they follow that same line. Sometimes I take a week. I just sit here. I don't do anything. I just sit because it has to become, everything has to disappear, and all the discussions. It's important that it is completely quiet in my mind. That I'm not worrying about anybody. That I'm thinking about you name it. Just all those voices have to stop, and then it's amazing. You just sit there. All of a sudden, I feel my hand touch the piano. I'm like, okay, and then it's almost like it's not me, and I follow its lead, and you will often find me in my studios laughing, like, "Oh, that's interesting," and that's interesting, because it doesn't feel like I am making that up. It's like it feels like this quiet space is just taking me by the hand and showing me, like, "Oh, let's go here," and then it shows me, and then the whole song, the whole composition unfolds as it is, and it's very special.
Wow, that's so inspiring, and that's such a great hint for all of us here and listening, to maybe create that space for ourselves to allow the voices to disappear and see what happens, being an experiment. Christel, you got an incredible story, and so I would just love to hear from you. When did your love for music and singing start?
Oh wow! At a very very early age, I think I always was in love with music. I probably was like a toddler. And singing started probably at the same time, but yeah, I was always, to me, the two of them really belong together. I can't remember that they were separated.
Mm-hmm. And so then, from liking music to actually then studying it and becoming a professional musician, something must have happened that really, where you felt like, this is my calling, this is my dream. So when did that moment happen?
Well, I think it did happen I was for a year in boarding school when I was 12. You're never really alone. And for me, that's difficult because I crave silence and I crave being by myself. And so I was already playing the piano, but not with that much of a passion. Or maybe I was, but I hadn't found the right teacher. And there I did actually find the right teacher. And the boarding school had nine little rooms spread out over 3 floors as piano rooms. And so it was my little game that I would start in the morning. It was the only way to get away from the crowds. I would just start down on the first floor and work my way up during the day and play all those 9 pianos. And, and that was fun. And so by the end of the day, I had quite a few hours in there. And if you practice, you get better. and then if you get the encouragement, then together with that progress that you're making in study, you soar. And so I think there it was that I decided I wanted to study music.
Mm-hmm.
Well, very young.
Wow. And so your environment, like your parents, they were supportive of this, you becoming an artist as a career?
I don't think they thought of it of me becoming an artist. They were very supportive, and they still are. All of them. You find your own path and you follow that no matter what. And I really don't think it was that they thought that I would become an artist. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I was just getting better at something, closer to who I was as a person.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful. And to all the parents that may be listening, there's so much power in providing that kind of environment where the child can just unfold her or himself and find out who she is and what she's here to do. And it sounds like you had this kind of really nurturing environment.
I did. It was really nice.
And then what was your next step? How did you, progress your career?
I was always making up songs, and I would hire my dad and my sister to sing parts of that. So I was always doing that. But in the meantime, I was also getting myself ready to formally ready to enter to enroll a conservatory. So what that means is you need to do an entrance exam, and there's a commission, and if they find you any good, then they allow you in. But there were probably 5 or 6 years in between that I practiced a lot before I actually enrolled. And then I studied piano first at the Conservatory of Music in the Netherlands, and then later on in South America. And then once I was done, you're never done, but after the 7 years of studying the piano, I went back in and studied voice, classical voice.
Wow, that's like 14 years of studying music. And you said before in a conversation, that's like 6-7 hours training a day, right? Practicing.
Yes, and once I enrolled at the Conservatory of Music, it was, for the next 7 years at least, 8-9 hours a day. So you don't do anything else but practice.
Wow. So did you ever have like regrets or the feeling like I'm missing out on life or missing out on other things? Or were you always like wholeheartedly, this is my thing, this is my purpose, and wholeheartedly said yes to that?
No, I don't regret any of that. I love what I was doing. I did realize probably in year 4, it became, it is lonely, but it's like writers, you need that, and so that it gets lonely, a little bit lonely, but it's so powerful that you overcome them. But I think in year 4 of the Conservatory of Music, I did wake up one day and think, how can you ever become an interesting person if you never leave those 4 walls? And so that's when all the traveling started.
Hey, oh, what a great question to ask. And so what was the first country that you embarked on?
Well, the first country was Argentina. So I studied piano there at the Conservatory of Music in Buenos Aires. And that was a life-changing experience. And I always tell everybody, there was a life before Argentina and there was a life after Argentina. It's like everything changed there. I was 22, so it's a very crucial age, and you're very susceptible to all these movements. And it's a totally different environment from the Netherlands.
Yeah, so I can imagine that you got a lot of self-discipline and the structure and the technique and all this in the Netherlands, and then you're going to a South American country, and it's kind of like the passion and the life and the heart-centeredness that would have really kind of blown your world open, huh?
Yes, it did, of course. But a lot of things did that. It was for the first time. I arrived there by myself, not knowing anybody. And you're 22 years old in this environment. It's Buenos Aires is an enormous city. I've never lived in a city like that. There were 14 million people around me.
Wow.
And they all spoke Spanish. And that was a bit of an issue because I couldn't speak it. And so when you're being thrown into the deep like that, you learn how to swim, or not. But I learned how to swim as fast as I could. And then you learn also that's something that I've never forgotten. When they take away your language, you can't understand the people. You have to rely on your instincts because there's nothing else we have. So I did this little game with myself. I would just stand somewhere. I don't know if this is a dangerous place or if it's safe to be here as a woman alone. And there's always that. And if it smelled right, I would take my chances. And who's to tell if I was right or wrong? But I never got myself in trouble. And I learned to really rely on my intuition even more than I did before. And that was a very important lesson. Mm. And then those things, of course, they have an influence on of course, on the music and the ways you express yourself. You become stronger. Mm-hmm. And that has been a development that's still progressing.
I just want to acknowledge you for your courage and boldness to just jump into a whole different culture and country and language. And so how long did it take you then to learn Spanish?
Well, like I said, if you get it, if you're thrown into the deep, you learn how to swim, and I learned to swim fast. And so I think loneliness helps you. So I think 3 months I could understand everybody. 6 I was probably 3.
Wow, that's
close.
Yeah, that's inspiring. And so, Christel, when was this moment where you really felt like your voice was going to play a bigger part in your music?
Okay, that was actually a little bit later, like maybe a year or 2 later. Yeah. I was back in Holland, and I finished my piano exam. It took me a while because I knew exactly what was. It wasn't that I didn't study, but I know exactly what is involved. I know that it takes hours a day, and I wanted to make sure that I was ready for that. And I needed a break between the 7 years of piano studies and again starting from scratch again. It's not something that you can do right away. You have to be ready. So I was ready for it. So that was another 6 years, 7 years.
A lot of dedication and persistence and really diving deep to become the best on all levels. Christel, then you're also a composer. So how did that? When did that sort of start?
Okay. Well, I think it was in 2007, somewhere around there, 5, 6, 7. I sang a concert, a very crazy concert at a classical concert as a singer at a very remote mission in Mexico. I mean remote. It's 10 hours driving south of the border from San Diego, and then another 2 hours of a really terrible dirt road. And there was a mission where I sang a classical concert, and I recorded that concert. And on the way back, when I listened to the recordings, I had there was some issues with the recording because of course it was in the middle of nowhere that it was recorded. And so I found somebody in Beverly Hills, sound producer, who helped me with that. And he and I became friends. And this man asked me, "So do you write any music yourself?" And I said, "Well, kind of." And I had some, but I didn't dare to really share it, to bring that into the world yet. He said, "Well, send it to me." And so I did. And then he became a very big promoter of that, and he really helped me get over this fear of bringing that into the world. And he was very encouraging. And so from there on, I never stopped there. That's small, what? 13 years?
Yeah.
14 years, 15 years now.
Wow.
And 10 albums further.
10 albums.
10 albums.
Wow, that's very prolific. That's a lot of creativity that you're channeling into the world.
Yeah.
And I want to highlight for our viewers is, like it's so obvious that Christel is living her passion and her purpose and her dream. Would you agree, Christel, that you're living?
Yeah, I think I found, let me put it this way, I think I found where it is that my powers come together. And I'm very happy with it.
That's a beautiful way of putting it, where your powers are coming together, and I think when we are in the space of living what we're here to do, then we're also attracting the people and resources that support us, like this guy that you met, who then supported you in starting to show up more with your music. And so I see that a lot. When we're really in the groove of our what we're here to do, then the universe seems to really like that and support us.
Yeah, I do think so, and I think also, if you stop wanting it from this one person that you have in mind, then I think if you open yourself up to then the world is, it feels like the world is out there to hold your hand and to help you forward. And I've been very, very lucky to find very special people on my path, and still, who help me to move forward and peel off more layers and get more to who I truly am and who I want to be in this world and what I want to share with everybody.
That's really powerful. It gives me goosebumps, because I see this a lot when we say yes to ourselves and make this decision to walk our path regardless and not knowing how it's going to pan out. Then there's all this support that suddenly comes flowing into our lives, and so that's really beautiful. Crystal, something I would like to ask you is about self-censorship, because I know this is something that keeps lots of us small. We don't want to get it wrong, or we don't want to get laughed at. We don't want to seem stupid. Did you ever find that challenging, or how did you overcome it if it did show up?
Okay, well, I don't think you ever overcome self-censorship. It will always show up. It's just, I can see, I can approach it a little bit more humorous these days. Oh, there it is again. But so for the first time that I remember that I'm very consciously aware of it was years ago when I was writing some poems that I later on set to music. In any case, I remember I was exactly where I was sitting in my apartment in the Netherlands, and I was sitting at my table, and I couldn't really get anywhere with this. And then there was a moment that I realized what was stopping me, and it was that every time that I would wanted to write something down, I caught myself thinking, "Oh, that's really stupid," and then. Because of that, I couldn't write it down because I had a judgment, I had an opinion about it. And there's nothing that is more self-censoring as being opinionated. So then what I try to do is, when that happened a couple of times, I managed to, I told myself, well, what if I just write it down anyway? I mean, even if it's, who cares? Anyway, this is not for anybody, it is for me. And what if I just write down even the stupid stuff? And if I don't like it later on, then I have to throw it away. And if I like it, I'll keep it. So that's what I did. But what I didn't know was what happened next. Is that the moment I did that I got myself so far that I would write it down, I had this image in my mind that there was this window that opened, or door that opened. And every time I got further in writing something down that I thought was stupid, more doors opened up, and it allowed me the windows that opened allowed me to dig deeper into what I really wanted to say, and I have never forgotten that. And it's even with Pleiades, the same thing happened. I would be in the closet, and I would, of course, there was this little voice again, like I was about to sing something, and I had every time I was thinking about what I was going to do, it didn't work. The moment I would think, just let it happen, just follow that voice and go, then it would just take me to some other place. And there is one, even, I remember there's the last piece on Pleiades, I remember Electra, the last track on Pleiades. I was, by that time, it was so strong, my trance-like state, but still, in that piece, I was in there, I was singing, and I remember thinking to myself, maybe I should start again, because I think I did something wrong. But the funny part was I was one foot out the door to stop it, but somehow the microphone kept me there, and I thought, okay, let me just finish this then, and then when it's done, I'll listen to it, and if it's no good, well, start again. So that's how, self-censorship can be a bit disturbing.
And I love that you're saying that it never really disappears, because as we're exploring new frontiers, stepping out of the comfort zone, then that the thoughts come up again, the belief systems around not good enough, or is it really, any good? Will people like it? And I love that you're noticing it, and you can just see it come, see it go, and just continue what you're doing. And that's great training to master that little voice, so it doesn't stop us.
Right. Yes. Yeah. You have to make. I don't think there's any point in trying to get rid of it, because it will always be there. And it's a fine line. It helps you also to be critical. It helps you up to a point. It helps, and there's one part of that that's very destructive. But there's the other part is it makes you keeps you on your toes, and keeps you try to achieve the best quality that you can possibly. So it has
use it as positive feedback, but don't let it stop you, basically.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so, Christel, in this journey and traveling through so many countries and developing your music, there must have been tough times, And I read somewhere in an interview, you said the relations are perceived as gifts. If the relations are perceived as gifts, magic can happen. So I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit on the tough times you may have experienced and how you turned them into magic.
Well, that's speaking now. I think I might have thought about it differently years ago, but right now I don't really perceive anything necessarily as good or bad. I think everything that comes on my path is all potential material to be used. So it's wonderful. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I enjoy having a very sad day. No, but that sadness, when I following day when I'm really out of it, if I use that, say, okay, then I'm going to write a sad song. I think, man, isn't that a gift? So you can use that emotion now, and you're in that frame of mind now. Well, use it and put it in a song, put it in a poem, put it in a story, tell that story. The following day, people might find it really happy with me. Well, okay, then I'll use that. The next day, I'm very nostalgic. Okay, I'll use that as well. So every emotion is great.
I love that. I love because many of us, we kind of have nice emotions which we like, and then we have a whole bunch of emotions which we don't like. And so I love that you just say yes to every emotion. It's this part of our human experience, and you can translate it into music, and you can be with it, embrace it, and beauty comes out of it. Yeah, gift comes out of it.
Yeah.
So
and I listen back to it. That's the fun part. And I then listen back to it. I was sharing that with my husband. So that and he has gone through all these compositions because boy, he does have to hear them many times before they're done. And we every song is connected, of course, to a personal experience. Not only that, it's also it's connected to a place in the world. So, of course, I do have pictures, but I also have songs that go to every single place in the world that I live, and they provided me with a sense of home, which is wonderful. So it made me feel much less lost. I mean, the amount of traveling that I've done, places that I've called home, could have easily made me feel very lost. But I think because of the music, and because of the songs, they're like my suitcase full of memories, and they bring back all kinds of good and bad, all kinds of memories.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's also like a deep connection to a place, isn't it? When you produce some music. And so our episode was called Inspired by Distant Lands. And so what other countries have you been in, and how did they feature in your music?
Well, let's see. So I lived in Argentina, I lived in Brazil, I lived in Mexico, I've been in Mexico many times. And the last place before moving to Sedona was Indonesia. And there I released a very different album from everything else. But again, clearly this is also pretty different. Lotus Dreams, which is all based on Asian sounds, of course, because I was surrounded. And there I did an experiment before we left, because it took a while before I actually that came together that moved to Indonesia. So there was one point I thought, well, I was getting impatient, and there was another emotion. I was getting very impatient with the fact that we weren't going. Not yet. Until one day I thought to myself, well, I don't actually have to wait until we're there. I could also just try to imagine what it was like, and then create. And so I started writing the album before we left, imagining what it would be like, which is also interesting. And then I continued writing the rest of it and on the road. And then there were also a couple of years that I was traveling completely on the road with the travel trailer, and then a year ago to Sedona.
Wow, what a beautiful, interesting, varied, inspired life you're living, Christel. And so, what would you say to somebody watching us here, and they know they would like to do some painting or singing or dancing or whatever it may be, or writing, but they haven't made a move yet? What would you say to them?
think just trust your instincts. That's one, and go for it. You can never go wrong with it.
You can never go wrong following your dream. I love that. So what's on the horizon, Christel?
Oh boy, it's a lot. So I took stock of this last year, this past year. I know it has been very difficult for a lot of people. I've been blessed that I've always writing. I've written more music than ever before, and I think I have. When I looked at what I have been doing now in the last year, I think I have material for 5 new albums. Some of them are further along than others. They won't all come out on spin, I'll promise. But there is a feature film on the horizon that I'm going to score. I'm working more and more in film because my music is very visual, and I signed a contract with an agent in Hollywood, and there's more work coming my way. There's lots of projects, collaborations with other musicians who have asked me to orchestrate their pieces. There's collaborations with photographers, and a trip to Europe finally after 3 years.
Beautiful, beautiful. Christel, so how can people find you? How can they get your records and find your music?
Okay, you can find me everywhere if you know how to spell my name, but I think that's up on the screen all the time. If you go to christelveraart.com, and you can find my music on Spotify, on Pandora, on Deezer, on Tidal, on almost all digital platforms, Apple of course, iTunes, YouTube. There are also lots of videos on my YouTube channel, same name, and you can find, if you go to my website, you can find all, and a lot of stories because I keep a blog, a blog with all the stories if you want to follow.
So fingers crossed for Christel because she's in the running for the best new age ambient and best vocal album in 2020. Yeah, so let's hold space and wish you all the best, Christel. So thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom and your inspiration. I'm sure so many of our viewers are feeling really inspired and ready to lock themselves into a booth to start to unlock their creativity. So thank you for that. And just wishing you all the best for all the wonderful projects and the records that are going to be coming in the future. And so if you feel you would like to also build a dream, or you would like to find out what your dream is, I invite you to connect with me. Just send me a message. I would love to support you because this is my passion and my purpose. And actually on the 23rd of April, I'm offering a free masterclass on the power of vision, how to create a life that you absolutely love living. And so the information will be in the notes. And so once again, Christel, thank you so much for being here, and all the very best. And thank you to our viewers. Look forward to seeing you next week for another amazing episode. Take care. Bye-bye.